which is the story of somewhere I wanted to live. And then I'm reading from the 5th octave, 4th chapter, Moriana, verse 2, story of a journey. These stories are offered as though they might propose a pause in your life, a way of putting on the stop button in all the wanderings about what is happening around us and what we're doing. And they're accounts of an ordinary, uneventful life, but they're presented as opportunities to exit your normal frame of reference and perhaps think about something else. Verse 3. I have no coffee in the house, nor money, and it's too late anyway. Perhaps Bilo's open, but do I really feel like getting in the car and driving to Bilo at 3 a.m? Northcote Plaza is so depressing at the best of times. Everyone's walking around as if in a common dream that cannot be shared, cannot be acknowledged. Can you imagine it at 3 a.m? I look around the shelves as if miraculously the coffee might appear, and it does. It's in the mill that my cousin Graziella had restored for me when I visited her in Reggio last year. She brought out teary-eyed the coffee mill that we had used in my former life in Trieste. It had been my job in the mornings to grind the cheap coffee, then mix it with roasted chicory roots and boil it. I remember it as delicious, or perhaps it was just that it was the one thing that always appeared as if by magic. The food did not, often, but the coffee always. Anyway, Graziella had it restored and then she emailed it to me. Must have cost her a fortune. All oiled and greased and the wood redressed. It made a beautiful clicking sound as you turned the long handle around, like when you walk a well-maintained bike around, and you could hear the wheels clicking like music. When she set me in the mill, she put some coffee beans in it. It's bad luck if you don't, she wrote in the note, and I left them in there. So I reach it up for it on the shelf, open the little compartment lid and check. Yep, they're still there and they're perfumed too. I sit down and I'm about to begin grinding, but the feel of it, the weight of it in my hand stops me in my tracks. It's like holding your mother when you return home after a long trip, or your adolescent daughter when the constraints of growing up have gradually inhibited her pre-adolescent closeness from manifesting as easily as it once did. And one day suddenly you get to hold her and all that childhood sweetness and unquestioning trust comes pouring out. Well, it's like that. I close my eyes and feel the grinder on my lap. I used to imagine it was a temple or an ancient architectural marvel with its shiny metal dome like a Saracen prayer house, or something from the future with that long antenna handle sticking out. I used to dream of living in there with the coffee beans, safe and secure. At night, falling asleep in their fragrance. It was my home, within the home we all shared. And it was where, along with the shoe brush holder on the wall, I'd spend my imaginary vacation. I remember one February day at Carnevale, when all the kids wear costumes, masks, strange, colourful outfits. Well, I was looking out the window at the snow falling and my friend Adriano appeared from around the corner, dressed as Robin Hood, complete with pointed green hat and bow and arrows. Domenico, he shouted up. Where's your costume? I shrugged. Invisible, I replied. Invisible? He furrowed his brow. Did you say invisible? Then he shook his head and he was on his way. I then looked over at the mill and saw long robes, turbans, camels swaying, palms, fountains. Through the air came the fragrance of coffee. I open my eyes now, I get up, walk over to the shelf and place the mill very gently, exactly where it was before. But look, it's got a little dust on it. I pull it down again and that's better. I clean it. The Saracen dome is shining again above the rooftops of maybe Konya, or perhaps Ankara. Yes, Ankara. After a cleansing rainstorm. An unusually cleansing rainstorm. And it's right there. Fifth octave, fourth chapter, Moriana. Second verse. To get to Big Bend from Denton, you have to first drive to Dallas. Then you leave the car at the airport, long-term car park. A huge expanse extending to the flat horizon of cars and buses of every kind. Then you fly to San Antonio. From there you drive a rented car to Marfa, past Sonora, Fort Stockton and Fort Davis. Continually wondering as you do what lies ahead. The nights are long, it's January, the day's mild, the sun's warm. You get to Marfa and near the railway station are the disused hangars that house all the Judd sculptures. Hundreds inside enormous vaulted spaces. You walk through them slowly, trying to discover something, anything, but nothing is revealed, except that when you visit the abandoned soldiers' quarters, outside what used to be the mess, there's an old bathing house, now roofless, and the stone pool in which soldiers would have bathed is filled to the brim with cool water. As the wind ruffles and wrinkles its surface, it spills on its southern edge because the wind comes from Arizona. It must be the pattern from time immemorial, because along this edge a moss has grown to soften the hard geometry of the stone. That's what's on your mind as you drive into the Big Bend National Park for 80 miles, skirting past ancient granite outcrops and distant, forbiddingly high mountains. Then you descend briefly into a canyon down to the river's edge and along it for a while. Soon you're in a car park, dotted with dusty windscreens, catching here and there glints of sun now obliquely slanted from the west. You follow the signs that take you straight down to a pool in the bend of the Rio Grande. You walk along the bank with just the wind as companion. Then you decide to climb one of the cliffs that overlooks the narrow river valley. From there, you see clear over the river into Mexico. A shepherd boy comes along on the Mexican side, followed by a herd of silent goats, silent except for a little bell that rings so finely among the late afternoon breezes that cling insistently to the water's surface and catch the leaves of the cotton trees. Fluffy clouds run north-south above the river. You let the sun settle on your skin and penetrate it just a little. You lean against the warm rock and briefly fall asleep. When you wake, the sun's just dipped below Mexico, and high above it the evening star's vigil had begun in a lonely splendour. You scramble back to the car, and far away across the river flats, way into Mexico, you hear the goat's herd silvery bell, still clamouring through wild grass and stone. On the empty road back to Fort Davis at regular intervals, your headlights keep lighting up signs that say, "Flying saucers ahead." They point into the flat country beyond. You pull in to the side of the road when you see the next sign coming up. Then you switch off the headlights. Settle in your seat and begin to peer into the darkness until you fall into a deep sleep. Flying saucers ahead. And you so believe those signs as you drive into that country. Until next time.